Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Learning Beyond Books. Today we are going to discuss transformation of sentences, that is, from an active voice to a passive voice, how we transform sentences. So we have been studying and we have understood it at some point or the other that what is an active voice and what is a passive voice. So if you talk about voice, what is a voice? Voice of a verb. That is, in a sentence, we talk about a subject, a verb, and an object. So, when in a sentence the subject is the doer of action, we say that the voice or verb is active in nature. For example, Ram eats chocolate. So, Ram eats chocolate. It's actually subject is Ram, who is working on something, and that is eating chocolate. So the doer of action is the subject and therefore it is active voice. We all know that. However, if we have to talk about the action being done on the subject or the subject is the receiver of action, in that case we say it is a passive voice. That is, the chocolate, Ram eats chocolate, chocolate is eaten by Ram. Okay. So in that case, it will be the reverse of the sentence formation that happens in case of active voice. So the next question is that first of all, why do we at all use passive voice? Why is there a need to use passive voice? Actually, passive voice is profoundly used in writing. Okay, whenever we have to stress upon the fact that what is the action, okay, what is the message, what is the action, when we have to lay an emphasis on that, we use passive voice. Whether we are writing an article or we are writing a report or notice or a circular, we always write in passive voice because it is not important that who has done or what is done is more important than who is doing it. And in that case, it becomes more formal and what action is done becomes more important. For example, if I say that teachers are asking students for vaccination, or if I say vaccination has been asked by the students. So, here in this case, getting vaccinated is more important than who's asking for vaccination or who is doing vaccination. So that is the difference. So when you have to emphasize on the point that where the action is important and not the doer of action, in that case, in formal writings, in formal speaking, we use passive voice. Fine. So once we have understood the use of passive voice, then the next point that we need to emphasize on is that how shall we convert an active to a passive voice. So for transformation, first of all, we have to identify the subject, verb and the object. For example, if I say that the lion killed the deer. So lion killed the deer, very clearly lion is the subject, killed is the verb and deer is the object. So if you have to convert it into passive voice, you would say that the deer is killed by the lion, right? So how are you going to do? The first step would be, of course, that is you are going to identify subject, object and the verb. The second thing would be that you are going to interchange them. Interchange the subject and the object. How are you going to do that? As he drives the scooty. So he drives the scooty. He is the subject, scooty is the object and drives is the verb. So if you have to interchange, how would you do it? Scooty will come first and he will be converted to its passive form, that is him. So he drives the scooty is driven by him. So by will come before the objective pronoun him, like he will be converted to him, or she will be converted to her, or they will be converted to them, or we would be converted to us, that we all know. It is simple pronoun that we have discussed. But in this case, what will happen to the verb? That is more important. That is, in case of it, verb will take, the base form of verb will take its third form. That is, it will be the past participle of the verb. So, if I say he drives the scooty, or the scooty is driven by him, so driven is the past participle of verb, that is drive, drove and driven. So V3 form will always be used in case of passive voice. Other important thing is that obviously we should have understanding of two things before we study about the active and passive voice or the transformation of sentence. First is the understanding about verbs, that we all know, and the second is the understanding about tenses. So that also we have discussed. So a quick recap of verbs, that is, there are two kinds of verbs, transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. So transitive verbs obviously have objects linked to them, and intransitive verbs do not have objects linked to them, and still they make the sentences clear. For example, if I say that he drives the scooty, so obviously drives, that is the verb, is linked to scooty, that is the object. So it is a transitive verb. But if I talk about intransitive verb, like he came late, so this is a case of an intransitive verb where no object is linked to it. So the point here is that only those verbs which are transitive in nature, for them it is possible to convert active to passive form, and not for the intransitive verbs. That is clear because the object is not there. Then the next is that how tenses are important, that according to tenses you are going to change the sentence from an active to a passive voice. For example, if I say in the present, in the simple present or indefinite tense, that she drinks chocolate syrup. So she drinks chocolate syrup, how would you convert it into a passive form? That is, chocolate syrup is drunk by her. Drink, drank, drunk, right? Similarly, you can talk about interrogative sentences like the questions. Do children love cartoons? Now, how would you convert do children love cartoons into its passive form? So that is, are cartoons loved by children? Right? Are cartoons loved by children? So that will be the passive form of it. Then present continuous tense, something that is happening in the present time, ongoing in the present time. How would you convert it from an active to a passive form? For example, if I say Winnie is calling Geeta. Winnie is calling Geeta. So how would you convert it into a passive sentence? So it will be that Geeta is being called by Winnie. So what is happening, that the verb will take its third form only, that is the past participle, but before it is being or are being, depending on the whether it is plural or singular, it will be there, but being will be added to it. Okay, like Ravi is drawing a diagram. So how would you convert it? That is, the diagram is being drawn by Ravi. So because something is happening in the present time, so you will be mentioning is being drawn. Okay, so these things have to be taken care of, that is the tenses.